Hello and welcome to another version of RentPost Live. Today we're going to be talking about the property management functionality of the application. This particular functionality is for property management companies, and we're going to show you how to generate your management fees, your owner statements, and finally your owner distributions. Uh, Currently we're here on the dashboard page of your account. So the first thing we're going to do is dive into some of the settings that you can look at for the property management functionality. And to do so, we'll go to the account menu at the top of the page and then to your settings. From there, we'll jump over to the property management tab on the right-hand side, and we'll select the property management tab. So there's two main sections here. The first is a toggle to enable property management or not. If you're a landlord, you might not be doing any management fees, and so you could just disable this. As a management company, you would, of course, want that enabled, and so we have that enabled here for this demo account. And below, you'll see all of the management fee structures that we currently have set up for this account. You have the ability to hide these, to edit them, or to add a new structure. So we're going to dive into one of these management fee structures and take a look at it. So we choose this one here and choose edit. What you'll see first across the top of this management fee structure are the three different types of calculation methods that are available to you. You can do a flat fee, and this is just a standard flat fee that will be charged on a per unit basis. You'll just set the amount for that flat fee, and that will be charged for that unit to that owner. You also have the option of a vacancy fee. Now, a vacancy fee will take the place of a flat fee in the instance where you don't have any active tenants within that unit. So this may be something that you want to charge so that you can make sure that you're at least collecting something for your units that are currently occupied and there isn't any revenue coming in for them. Typical scenarios for this might be something where you want to collect a fee because you're currently out seeking new tenants, and there is something to be collected for that particular unit. What we want to make sure to do is give this structure a nickname that we can remember. This can be just something simple like a description of the management fee structure itself, or it can be something that describes the contract that you've set up with that particular owner. Next, you'll want to go ahead and set a default statement day, and this will just be the day of the month that you're typically going to generate your management fees. So across the top, this is the flat fee. Next, we'll jump to the percentage. Now, the difference between a flat fee and a percentage is the percentage is going to calculate against the revenue accounts that we've selected here at the bottom and run that percentage amount against the revenue that has been received over the period. Now, I'll show you a little bit more about how those calculations are actually run, but it's important just to be sure that this is set up according to the contract that you have with the particular owner. And you may have multiple, perfectly okay. In that case, you'll just add multiple management fee structures. So this particular one, if we're looking at just the percentage, we'll see that we have a rental revenue at 9%. So we're collecting 9% of rental revenue. That's going to be all the rents that we've received over the period. We're taking 9%. We're taking 25% of our rental deposit, which is not common and something you probably won't have, but for this example, we are showing that. And then we're taking 50% of late fees as well. You can add additional revenue accounts to collect percentages against by just clicking this plus here, and then choosing the revenue account that you would want. So maybe you want to collect 50% of laundry revenue or another revenue account. So you can choose these additional accounts here. So we're not going to add another one, so we'll just go ahead and remove that one. We also still have that vacancy fee option here. So if there isn't any revenue coming in for this unit, obviously $0 of rental revenue times any percentage is still going to leave us with zero. In this case, the vacancy fee could override that and still make sure that we're collecting something for that particular unit if there aren't any tenants in there. Now, there are other scenarios where you want to be sure you're collecting at least a certain amount, or you want to set a baseline amount or something along those lines. and that's going to be a flat fee and a percentage. This particular structure is using a flat fee percentage is how it originally was set up, and so this is why this already has some settings here. But you'll see the calculation method that is used for the flat fee and percentage, and we have 3 different types that you can choose from. You can choose a flat fee plus a percentage, or you can choose whichever is greater or whichever is lesser. This particular one was a flat fee plus percentage. If you were to choose whichever is greater or whichever is lesser, that would ensure that of the flat fee and then the percentages that are run across these revenue accounts, we're going to ensure that we're collecting at least $50 or at the most $50. The $50 flat fee is the amount that's going to be charged if there are active tenants within this unit. That is irregardless of whether or not any revenue has been received for this particular unit over the period of calculation. So this particular one, we're doing $50 flat fee, and we have the 9% here, 25%, and 50%. So we're not going to make any changes to this, but hopefully you can see how flexible this is and will allow you to do the sector management fee structures. So we're going to exit from this particular fee structure and get out of the settings and go and show you how to assign these management fee structures to the units for calculation. So if we jump over to the Units and Tenants tab here, you'll see all of your units listed below. One thing of note that you might want to pay attention to is this particular statistic underneath your unit stats that will show you how many units are currently set up without a management fee. Now, this is going to really help you dive in to make sure that you have all of your units properly assigned. So if we select this particular statistic, it's going to go ahead and filter all of our units down based on that. And so we can see these particular units don't have a management fee structure assigned. We're just going to choose to edit this particular unit. And down towards the bottom of the Edit Unit option, we're going to see the Property Management section. Now, this is where you're going to associate the unit owner with this particular unit. And this one, we already have a Robert Christensen assigned, and that'll be fine for this example. Next, you'll see the management fee structures. And so if you select this drop down, you'll see the management fee structures that we have previously added. You can, of course, edit any of these from the settings where I had shown you. We're just going to select this one here that we were looking at earlier. And then we're going to save this particular unit. And so what that's going to do is it's going to assign that management fee structure to this unit here. Any revenue that has been received over the period of calculation, which I will show you how to do your periods of calculation in just a moment, will be ran against that management fee structure when doing calculations. So to do the calculations, what we'll do is we'll go over to the Accounting tab. And then from there, we'll jump into the sub-tab Property Management. So what you'll notice on the Property Management tab here is across the top, we have all of our management fee structures. These are the same structures that you had seen in your settings. You can also edit any of these fee structures by just selecting this particular link here, and it'll show you the details for that fee structure. If you had any questions or wasn't sure exactly how that calculation was being run, or maybe you needed to make some edits. Across the top, you also have a plus here, so we can go ahead and add a new management fee structure if we needed to do so. The example that we were looking at previously was the 9% or 50. So we'll take a look at this particular fee structure. Now, across the top here, it's telling you that this particular fee structure we're going to run for the period. Now, the period of calculation is very important when you're running for your management fees, your owner statements, and the distributions for obvious reasons. Firstly, you don't want these periods to overlap, and you want to make sure that this period range is the statement range that you want showing for an owner. Typically, companies are going to choose to issue their owner statements around the 15th of the month. This particular one is showing September 1st through October 31st. That is not a very common period. You have the flexibility of doing whatever it is you'd like for your periods. But typically, I would recommend making sure that there isn't any overlap, there isn't any lapses in the actual period of time, and you can set that up here. To do so, you'll just click the plus to add a new period, selecting that period and choosing add period, and go ahead and add that to your statement range here. So we'll choose the period here, September 1st to October 31st. You'll see some estimated fees here for the period, and that's going to automatically apply, be running a calculation over this period based on your management fee structure. So what we have below here is a 1, 2, 3-step process. The first one here being your management fees, the calculation and the ability to mark these expenses as paid to yourself, the management fee company, expensed out to the owner. Next, you have the owner statements, and you can generate these, and then you have the ability to email, print, or download as a PDF, or even regenerate if you need to do so. And I'll talk a little bit more about the regenerate option in just a moment. And then finally, the owner distributions, the amount that you're paying out to the owner, less any expenses and management fees that you've recorded over that period. So what we're going to do to simulate a new period here is we're going to choose to regenerate all. And what this is going to do is it's going to run any revenue that has been received over this period on a per unit and per owner, grouped by owner. So we have the owner here, and this is a particular unit. This is another unit. You can see the unit fee total. So it's going to run the calculation of the revenue that's received on a per revenue account level against the percentage that we had selected. And this particular one is adding the flat fee as well. So we have, in this particular one, we have $50. We don't have any revenue that has been received over this period, so these are, of course, all zero. So as we scroll down, we'll see this one is collecting 50, this one's collecting 50, quite a few of these collecting 50. We don't have a lot of revenue in these accounts. Here you'll see some revenue has been received over this period, times the 9%, it's going to give you the calculation for that video. So you'll want to review all of these and make sure that they look correct, and then what we'll do is we'll save the fees. What this is going to do is it's going to go ahead and it's going to add these management fees payable to your company, and so we can see all the different fees here. These are being expensed out on a per owner basis over all of the units that are associated with that owner. So you can see 200, 484, 300, and so on. What you'll want to do is just make sure that you have the proper recorded date for this, give it a check number, reference number if you like, and mark it as paid. And this is payable again to your management company. So next thing you'll want to do after you've marked all of these as paid is go on down and generate your owner statement. So by clicking generate, it will bring up this particular owner statement, and it'll give you the rundown of the revenue and expenses recorded over the period. This is not a very good example as we don't have any revenue that has been recorded. So maybe we can find one that does. Just looking up here, I'm going to assume Right Lane has some revenue that's been recorded, so we'll go and try to generate that statement. Okay, so doing here, we can see we have a $2,600 in rental revenue as in the balance for a particular tenant in this unit. And as we continue to scroll down, we can see that that's all of the revenue that we've recorded, and we can see some management fees here as well that are being deducted. This particular one is showing management fees over a different period. The reason you're seeing that is the recorded at date that has been set for that particular expense is also showing over this period. So you want to make sure that the recorded date for your management fees also falls within the date range. You can manually add management fees just in the same way that you can use this system for the automatic calculation. It's just important that you match the dates on that when you're adding those particular fees or expenses. So we can see these here, and then we can see the final rundown, and then finally the owner distribution amount. So what we'll want to do here after we generate all of these owner statements is we'll want to finally pay the owner distributions. And so just by marking these as paid, it will add that expense directly to the owner, zeroing out their balance hopefully for that period. You, of course, can check that through the owner statement to So that's the basis for the owner statements. There's a few other things, of course, that we want to check with that. I had mentioned previously the regenerate option of the icon. So if we just went ahead, let's say we save this particular statement, say, okay, it's good. It's going to save that this owner statement. It's going to generate a hard copy PDF on file. And this is going to basically ensure that this is basically acts as a statement in time, meaning that it's not dynamic. In other words, if you added additional revenue or expenses over this period, they're not going to show up on this owner statement after it's been generated. This is important because if you're sending out these owner statements to an owner, it needs to represent exactly how it was that it was sent out. If something was altered after the fact, you wouldn't want your records not matching what was actually sent out to the owners. Now, that all said, you have the option to regenerate this statement. And what that's going to allow you to do is if for some reason you did need to record additional revenue after you had gone ahead and generated this owner statement, you could go ahead and then regenerate that and run the calculations once again. And then, of course, you can save it, and it will have the new revenue or expenses that you recorded within the statement. That, again, is a hard copy. So that's another thing to pay important note of. The only other thing that I would stress with your management fees and owner distributions, owner statements, is making sure that the date range and any revenue or any expenses that you've recorded are within that period. Anything that falls outside of that period is not going to show up within the calculations for your management fees on the owner statements or within the distribution. So it's important to pay note of that when you're running those and when you're recording your revenue and expenses throughout the month. I would suggest that as a company internally, you set a cutoff period or cutoff time, day, basically a date of the month, as well as a time for your recordings, and not to record any revenue or expenses after you've done this generation. You can, of course, do so, but you will want to go in and regenerate as it will alter the automatic calculations and the owner statements, as I'm saying. One other thing that you may see and that may become important to you just as to check is underneath the reports, we do have an owner statements option as well. Now, this is as this note here will explain to you, this is a dynamic owner statement. Essentially, this particular owner statement is not necessarily generating your management fees. It's not throwing in your distributions. It will show those represented under the owner statements that you're searching for here over this period if they have been recorded. So, of course, you could manually go in and record your management fees and your owner distributions and then see the owner statement over that range. Typically, I would not recommend doing this. I would stick with the automatic generation, but this report can be really useful for just seeing P&L for that particular owner if you needed to check something or just see how things were looking mid-month. And that's mostly it for the property management functionality of the application. Of course, if you have any questions, we would love to help you and get those answered. But hopefully we'll see you around, and thanks a lot.